Too big, too small, too old, too weak, too unfit. Hey guys, Adam here. Today I'm going to run you through my background, my athletic career to date, if you like. And we're going to start way back when I was at school. And frankly, at school, athleticism was something I actively avoided. Sports day, PE lessons. I spent a lot of my time hiding behind C blocks, smoking cigarettes, and generally not doing what I was supposed to be doing during those periods of time. Fast forward, early teenage years, out on my bike a lot, skateboarding, rollerblading, being relatively active. And then 17, I got myself a car, passed my driving test, and the bike became redundant. I no longer needed the bike. Finished college, went to university, and met a friend who introduced me to something called powerlifting. Now, while I was at college, I did dabble in the gym, bit of t-shirt training, nothing too serious. But a friend of mine, Marcus, actually introduced me to powerlifting, competitive weightlifting, and it's something that I got hooked on. I loved it, and I was never any good. In fact, I was really, really bad proportionately to a number of the other individuals in my age and weight category that were competing, but I enjoyed it so much. I then left university, and upon leaving university, got so entrenched with work and my career and buying a house and all of those things that happen when you take that step from being at university, still being in education, to actually having a career and some responsibilities. And besides a little bit of gym work, a little bit of training, I didn't really do anything. And it wasn't until probably 5-6 years after leaving university, still having some pretty bad habits, drinking a lot, smoking, that I started taking into consideration my fitness, my health. And I made the investment in a fitness tracker, a sports watch, a genuinely pretty serious sports watch. And it was a Garmin Fenix 5. And I'm actually going to do a video shortly after this talking about, I've now got a Garmin Fenix 6, but actually how that in itself became the foundation of my fitness focus. I invested in a new mountain bike and I started just doing loops of the local army ranges. It was about a 10-mile loop, and I would loop it and see if I could beat my time every time. And I did that progressively for a couple of years, ad hoc, on and off. And then in 2019, my work introduced a cycle to work scheme whereby you can buy a bike and you can pay it off monthly, for those of you that aren't in the UK or familiar with that type of scheme. And I bit the bullet and I bought a bike. I bought a road bike, something I'd never ridden before. The prospect of riding with clipless pedals was pretty daunting, and actually there's some pretty unfunny stories of me just falling sideways at traffic lights, which we can talk through at a later date. But nonetheless, I bought a bike with the intention of just starting to cycle a little more. And a colleague at the time actually was talking about the fact that he'd cycle into work. In some instances, he'd cycle 100 kilometers before coming into work. And that blew my mind. I lived about 20 miles away from my office, and the prospect of riding a bike 20 miles scared the hell out of me. It was something that I would never comprehend, and he one day suggested, I tell you what, I will ride to your house. He lived 8 minutes away from our office. I will ride to your house and ride back with you. Almost a 40-mile round trip, and it didn't even faze him. And I sort of thought to myself, how can someone be so far away physically from a fitness standpoint than where I feel I am today? So I got my bike and I started doing some riding. Just very, very occasionally, very casually, started going out for bike rides. And shortly after that, for whatever reason, I started running. I just started going out and doing a couch to 5K. And 5K came relatively easy. And then I progressed from 5K and started getting very, very addicted to running. Almost to the point that actually I ran through my legs. I started experiencing some pretty painful injuries in my shins, shin splints. I started having problems with my IT band. I ended up going and getting some trainers specifically for running, because I was running in trainers that had absolutely no cushioning whatsoever. I then went on to actually have my gait analysis done and bought some different trainers which were better but not quite as good. I then went on and actually got some custom insoles made to negate the fact that my feet roll inwards quite progressively when I run. And then since then, actually, and sticking to the 10% rule, making sure that you're not increasing your mileage or intensity by more than 10% every single week, I've managed to progress from nothing to actually running a marathon in March this year. And that's a video that I'll do at a later date. But the marathon was a hell of a feat of endurance for someone that had never done anything like that. And actually in the training up to the marathon, and I leveraged a Garmin built training plan that's actually accessible from the Garmin Connect platform, the application that you utilize alongside a Garmin watch. And again, I'll run through those in a later video when I talk through actually the Garmin, the features, how that's helped me with my progression. And I'd love to hear from you if you're utilizing any fitness trackers or watches, and actually your experience with maybe inbuilt training programs, or your experience with going from couch to something. But I set myself a goal when I started running in February 2020 to actually run half marathon, and I did that and wanted to go further. And then I actually set myself a goal the following September to train for a triathlon. And I booked a triathlon, which unfortunately due to COVID got cancelled. And that got cancelled, and I thought to myself, do you know what? Out of all of the training I'm doing, swimming, running, cycling, the one I enjoy the most is running by a country mile. And subsequently, I want to pursue that short term. So I said, right, that's it. I'm going to commit myself. And I signed up to a marathon that ran along a canal, which literally runs past my back gate. And I started training for it and training for it and training for it and training for it. And then the company that was running it went into liquidation. We heard nothing. I joined Facebook groups. I started asking other individuals, have you heard anything from this company? We've paid this money. We've signed up to this race, and we have had absolutely no correspondence from them. And it got to a week before the race, and it was clear it wasn't going to be happening. 2 days before the race, we actually got notification from an organisation that had bought that company saying, we're sorry, it's not happening. We'll be in touch. And they haven't. But nonetheless, at the point I realised that this isn't going to happen, I actually called my brother and I said to him, look, I'm running this marathon. I'm going to do it on my own, and I'm running it literally out my back gate. I'm going to turn right and run a quarter of a marathon and then run back. It would be amazing. My brother's never run a half marathon before in his life, but it would be amazing if you could meet me at the halfway point and run with me as far as you possibly can, just to try and coach me through that. And as I said, I'll do another video specifically on the marathon at some point in the future, but that was the most emotionally brutalizing experience I have ever had. It was so draining, and actually I was still out of shape and probably not prepared to the extent I should have been to go and run over 26 miles on my own. And I've spoken to a number of people since, and actually they've suggested that the prospect of running something like that, be it a triathlon or a marathon or even a half marathon or a 10K, is so much harder without that camaraderie, that crowd, that environment that you get at a formal race, a formal event. And actually just going out and sticking your headphones in and running it on your own is really, really mentally difficult. And it was. So off the back of the marathon, I actually had a little bit of a break. We were progressing quite quickly towards our due date for Theo's birth, and I spent some time with my fiance getting some things ready, and then we started swimming quite a lot. We started swimming almost every other day, the two of us. My fiance would go and swim in the slow lane. She was 36, 37 months pregnant by that point, but we would both go and swim 1,000 meters 3 times a week-ish. I would do it in sort of preparedness for racing at a later date, and she would do it in preparedness to keep her fitness up for the endurance event that she was about to undertake. And for any of you that haven't had a child or experienced labour, it is one hell of an endurance event. Something that I am absolutely dumbfounded that anybody can push themselves through, especially when it's 60 hours of labour like we experience. But again, that's a story for a later date. So actually that focus on swimming once again reintroduced my potential focus on triathlon. I actually got a credit from the race that I was due to run in September last year and double checked that that was still valid and rebooked myself on to that event. So this coming September the 19th, I am going to be racing at the season finale event at Dorney Lake in Windsor. It's going to be my first triathlon. It's an Olympic distance race consisting of a 1.5 kilometre swim, a 40 kilometre bike and a 10 kilometre run. Now, personally, I'm not overly worried about the run or the bike. That being said, I've never biked 40 kilometres and then run a 10k after swimming 1.5 kilometres. But right now, my biggest concern is the swim. Swimming is not something that I am born to do. I can swim. Swimming fast and breathing bilaterally or every other stroke or whatever you're supposed to do is just not something that comes naturally to me. I've been focusing so heavily on the swimming that actually I've probably neglected the bike and the running a little bit, but it's certainly the part of the race that needs the most attention. So as we progress towards the 19th of September, as I say, I'll start giving you weekly updates on my training progress. The next video, I'm actually going to do a bit of a review on the Garmin. So in the next video, I'll give you a bit of a preview as to how my program has gone to date and what that program consists of. I'm actually leveraging an inbuilt Garmin training program for an Olympic distance triathlon, and I will let you know exactly how I've been finding that. And unfortunately, due to personal commitments and having a baby, I haven't been able to stick to it to the T, but I have been doing my utmost to try and get in the relevant training components every single week to try and make sure that I'm not missing out on too much in preparedness for the race on the 19th of September. I'll also have a look at the body battery feature within Garmin Connect, which actually gives you a really good indication of how your fitness and fatigue is going relative to the amount of sleep you're having versus your athletic output, if you like. And obviously what's happened to that since Theo's joined us. So really looking forward to going through all that with you next time. And once again, if you've got any comments, feedback, any experiences with other platforms, with other fitness trackers, any experiences of Dorney Lake and racing triathlons in Windsor, please put it in the comments below, because I'd love to hear from you, and really looking to start building up some community within this sort of dads trying to do triathlon arena. But until next time, see you soon.